Football, still no deal for Micah Parsons, but his actions of late apparently have head coach Brian Schottenheimer asking him, what the dealio? Schottenheimer saying he will meet with the Cowboys star today after Parsons was seen lying down on a table for part of the Cowboys game against the Falcons. Coach saying, I had to figure out what he was doing it and why he was doing it. So, senior NFL writer Jeremy Fowler now joins us. You see the picture right there. I kind of wish I was doing that right now, but that's okay. Jeremy, what are you hearing about whether Micah Parsons will be on the field for the Cowboys opener against the Eagles? I'm asking you this pretty much every day.
For sure. Well, Scooby, despite this resting you're seeing here, Micah Parsons has been working. I've talked to people in the building who said he's been putting in 2-a-days, even though he's not practicing with the team. He's lifting and he's running. He's also a part of the walkthroughs. He's been in every meeting. So the coaches and the people there believe that he's locked in to potentially play week 1 despite what happens with his contract. Now, whether he actually steps on the field is up to him. No hard date yet as to when he's going to start practicing, but they got a lot of other issues to sort out. Cowboys are taking trade calls. Well, they're getting trade calls. They're not really taking them. They don't have any interest in trading them unless it was some crazy deal. They're going to have to go from there. They got about 10 to 12 days to try to bridge the gap on this contract extension.
Talking about the Cowboys is just what we do here at ESPN, and you've been talking about the Browns a lot as well. What can you tell us about their QB plan heading into week 1?
So it's starting to crystallize. They do want to keep 4 quarterbacks. That's their plan right now. And Kenny Pickett has been the one who's injured, but they're still high on him. I expect the Browns to keep him on the active roster, not necessarily put him on like a short-term IR, which would knock him out for 4 weeks, or some sort of physically unable to perform list. So he's had a hamstring issue, some others, but he is starting to practice a little more. You see Dylan Gabriel there. He's made a case for somewhere strong on the depth chart. We'll see where that ends up. Right now, Pickett is number 2 on the depth chart behind Flacco, then the 2 rookies. I'm told that's sort of a plan that's set in sand as opposed to stone. That's just something they have to put out because they have to list the depth chart on their website. But that is still a little bit fluid. They got about 2 weeks of practice time to see who impresses. But both rookies will be on the roster. Kenny Pickett as well. You got Joe Flacco starting. Most teams don't keep 4, but the Browns have sort of stayed true to their plan here. They want the more the merrier in the quarterback room right now.
Hey, the more the merrier here on Sports.
As a player, I feel like I put in the work. I feel like everything I do, I try to do it to my best, and that's all I ask for. So I feel like everybody feels like, they should be on the team. And if you ask anybody on the team, would they feel like they belong, in their own eyes. So I feel like I do, but I'm my own player. I think about myself in a high regard, of course. So it's not my decision. Yeah, I didn't know I was out.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't know. I was on the bike. I was powering up. I was powering up for that 2-minute drive because, that's just a situation every quarterback dreams for. That's many situations I've been in before, and I thought I was in. So then he told me I wasn't in, and I was like, oh.
Sanders, of course, disappointed to be pulled from the game before that final 2-minute drive. As we take a look at some of the notable performers, the quarterbacks in the Browns quarterback room. Joe Flacco, the starter, 9 of 10, 71 yards, a touchdown. Dylan Gabriel, gripping and ripping it, 129 yards and a touchdown. Shedeur Sanders, under pressure, 5 sacks, finished 3 of 6 for 14 yards on the day. Saints have a quarter. Well, the Browns' preseason finale was not exactly a strong finish for Shedeur Sanders. The 5th-round pick quarterback out of Colorado was sacked 5 times. He finished 3 of 6 for 14 passing yards on the day. For more, I'm joined now by CBS Sports NFL analyst Emory Hunt. Emory, first of all, Kevin Stefanski pulled Shedeur in favor of Tyler Huntley late in the 4th quarter. That was a big storyline coming out of this Browns game, and the game was on the line. Now, Huntley did lead the Browns to the game-winning field goal in that situation. Some might say, hey, why take this situational opportunity away from the rookie in Shedeur Sanders?
Yeah, and it's interesting because we didn't know while watching the game real time whether or not he was injured or whether or not there was a benching or whether or not this was planned because he had 5 drives already, or whether or not Kevin Stefanski was trying to save Shedeur from himself. It was already a bad game for him. Maybe he didn't want it to get worse, but when you don't have any clarity while we're all watching the game live, you have to speculate and figure out what's going on. And then when you get the post-game sound clips from Shedeur talking about, well, I was ready to go back in, I was on a bike, and then you hearing Stefanski talking about he's a competitor, it's like, well, what's going on? Hence the chaos and the chaotic nature around this quarterback competition.
Absolutely. I mean, it's one of those situations where you're saying, okay, are you trying to save him from himself, or, see what you got elsewhere, or just win the game? Because at the end of the day, preseason games, yes, they don't count, but sometimes you still want to get the win.
They matter.
They do matter. Elsewhere in the Sanders family group chat, Buccaneers safety Shiloh Sanders was ejected for throwing a punch at tight end Zach Davidson. Now, if you're a guy on the fringe of making this roster like Shiloh is here, Emery, how do you let this happen?
You got to be smart. And this is something for Shiloh that we've seen going back to his time at Jackson State in terms of like targeting penalties, the most inopportune time to have a personal foul. We saw that at Colorado, some extended drive. So this is par for his mantra and what he has done. But you can't do this in this juncture of the game. And you especially can't do this on the heels of your brother having his worst game possible as a pro, because now it just looks like everything chaotic is coming from the Sanders family. But we know this is Shiloh being an aggressive player. He has to be smarter than that, because that looked to be inside the red zone. So now you extend the drive and you also get thrown out. And on top of that, they get further toward the goal line. So just a bad thing all the way around for Shiloh Sanders.
Yeah, I mean, I doubt Shiloh was watching Shedeur's game while he was warming up for this one, but you never know. You never know. But also, when you consider this from the perspective of Bucs management, I mean, how do they view a situation like this in a preseason game when, you're trying to make a roster?
Well, it's probably just a one-off, because this is the first time we've heard Shiloh doing something out of pocket. All reports coming from everyone else that he's been very solid in camp. He's been a good teammate. He's been where he's supposed to be. He's been making plays, in terms of like on special teams, things of that nature. So this is just a one-off, but it just so happens it happened on the worst possible day in Sanders family football history.
Well, elsewhere in the National Football League, we've got the Saints quarterback battle. That's been a headline all preseason. Spencer Rattler and Tyler Shuck each getting extended playing time this preseason. But at the end of 3 games of tape, Emery, where does this quarterback battle stand?
I still give the edge to Spencer Rattler, because we saw today him being able to go out there with Chris Olave and Rashid Shaheed for the first time ever, because last year he was out there with the 2s and 3s and other guys like Mason Tipton, who he had a great rapport with. And so this was the first time we saw him with the starters on the offensive line and also with those wide receivers. So he played better than Shuck all throughout the preseason. They wanted Shuck to win the job because they extended this thing until week 3 of the preseason, and Shuck played okay. Rattler played okay plus, so it's not a situation where you're saying, okay, Rattler was, emphatically your guy for the future, but he's your guy to at least start this season, and we'll see if he plays himself into starting the entire season or if he plays himself into not starting the whole way, and Shuck gets an opportunity. I do feel like they'll find ways to roll Shuck into the mix, but Rattler will have to play himself out of it. And to be honest, it probably won't take much, because the coaching staff has already decided that they want this guy to play, and they want him to be the guy because they drafted him in the 2nd round.
Well, and they have shown previously in the Saints organization they're not shy to spell in another quarterback here and there, whether it's a couple plays or a couple packages in a game, or to just have, some players start one game, some another, right?
Yeah, you never know.
You never know. You never know. All right, 32 teams in the National Football League, 3 preseason games each. That's a lot of tape to watch, but this man, Emery Hunt, doesn't miss a snap. So let's start, Emery, with your all preseason offense.
I was so excited about this list.
Yeah.
Because we were watching all these preseason games, and we got a bunch of guys. We got a starting offense and a starting defense, but we're starting with the offensive side. As you look right here, we talked about Jackson Dart ad nauseum, but Travion Henderson, the way he started his preseason debut with the opening kickoff return for a touchdown really was something that stood out to me, because he was just so dynamic as a returner, as a runner, as a receiver. He was finishing runs, he was getting into the end zone. And Calvin Banks, the New Orleans Saints quiet 1st-round pick, was out there balling the entire preseason. Hadn't given up a pressure, hadn't really done anything in terms of giving up a sack. He's been rock solid for whoever was back there at quarterback. So the Saints nailed their 1st-round pick with a tackle out of Texas, who many considered like, well, we don't know if he's really that good or if he's really, worthy of this type of praise. He's been proving everybody wrong. He's been proving himself correct, because he was one of the top tackles coming into last year's college football season, and he went out there and balled out for the Saints. So the future is bright on the left side.
I mean, hey, speaking of tackles, too, I like that you also had Marcus Bowe, the Giants rookie tackle out of Purdue. 5th-round pick. A lot of people saying, how did this man slide to the 5th round? Because he's bringing a lot of talent so far in the preseason.
You can even talk about, center Willie Lampkin, the 5'10", 290-pound undrafted free agent for the Rams, who's now hurt, but he was out there kicking butt and taking names as an undersized center up front.
Absolutely. Got to love these guys making the most of the opportunities to show what they can do. On the offensive side of the ball, what about the defensive side of the ball? I need to see your defensive all preseason team.
Excited about this team too, Madeline, because again, a lot of ballers. You talk about Caleb Murphy out of Ferris State making sacks, another Saint there. Nico Reed, we saw him in one of the first preseason games with the pick 6. But Ashton Gelati is another one that I really like. But Elijah Williams, I called a lot of his games at Morgan State. Actually was on the broadcast when he broke the all-time sack record in college. He came in as an outside linebacker, grew into defensive end, can play any one of the techniques. He's been starring for the Minnesota Vikings up front. Aiden Huntington has also been outstanding. I talked about him when I was at the College Gridiron Showcase, how explosive and how quick he is for a defensive lineman. This game, the last one against